He was just like looking miserable. I was like, you just want like a bro sesh? He goes, I would love a bro sesh. So we went and got a kettlebell and some dumbbells, and we're just over there. And Bailey just walked over. She's like, what's happening over here? I was like, we're just broing.
Yeah.
We're just staring at each other, having conversation, just triceps, arms, and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, that's what I needed. He's
Yeah.
like, I don't know why I just did this workout. He said that was awful. And he just was sitting on the rower just like sad.
Rolling, so
We're rolling.
Outtakes great.
Okay. I thought we were sitting there waiting still.
No.
Got it.
There's no telling what he has of the
Oh,
last
God.
like 10 minutes.
Okay. You guys go to kick it off.
I'm ready.
What's going on, guys? Matt Fraser here with HWPO Training. Today we're sitting down with Matt O'Keefe, CEO of HWPO, also known as Chief. And we got Scott Stallings. Scott, you want to just run us through your accolades? He's really good at golf. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm decent at golf.
I don't want to screw up any of your accolades. I'll let you just take it.
So I'm Scott Stallings, PGA Tour player. This is my 13th season on tour, and I've won a few times. I train a little bit, and that's kind of why we're here today. So that's kind of the short and
Perfect.
sweet.
Summary. 13 years. Holy
He's
cow.
humble, top 50 player in the world. Had a great year, finished top 30 on tour. I might be a fanboy. I know all the stats.
O'Keefe's my unofficial official caddy, if that's a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Caddy for the caddy.
yeah.
This is a thing on tour now. We invented it.
Yeah, there might be a time in April where you hear about a tall, pale,
Yeah.
balding guy that gets kicked out of Augusta for trying to hit a shot on 16 during the practice round. That's him.
I want to hit a shot on 16, and I want to be naked under the jumpsuit that the caddies wear.
All right, so two things real quick. Why hole 16?
Okay, so O'Keefe has made it happen, not on purpose, but just the places that we've played, probably some of the most iconic par threes on tour. So my caddy John comes out, and O'Keefe, being a golf fan, just kind of being in the ropes and everything, and he kind of was like, I feel useless, like, how can I help? And John's like, you can carry this bag.
Yeah.
And he was like, sure.
Yeah.
And so it all kind of happened that way. And then just some of the holes that we play, like 16 at Waste Management is the stadium hole where you go in there.
Oh, okay.
And it kind of started there as we should hit.
Yeah.
And then it started going into other holes and other just kind of random places we were there. And so he's got 7 at Pebble to still do, and then Augusta, that's a little bit more of maybe a pipe dream.
If you can pull that off,
Yeah.
I mean, it might be Scott's last Masters because of it, but
I might not get to play on Thursday, but that's kind of how. But 16 is probably one of them. As far as Augusta, a lot of hole-in-ones, kind of coming down the stretch. It's where Tiger had that famous chip in. Just kind of a crazy hole, especially with the back location on Sunday where they put the flag, and just something that's very iconic of Augusta National, and as where all the holes are, and so
O'Keefe's about to get some publicity getting chased off a golf course.
yeah. You ever seen someone get hogtied at a course? It might happen.
it's the one place on earth that you don't want to be unruly because they will take a picture of your face and it will never be allowed on the property again.
That's about right.
Yeah.
So here we are.
All right. All right, so quick overview. What is your background in golf?
I played every sport growing up. Tiger wins the Masters in '97, and I was kind of like a seasonal athlete, I guess. Baseball, basketball, soccer, kind of everything, and golf was kind of something that I did in the midst, in between seasons. And then Tiger comes in, changes the game forever. Like a lot of guys like my age, I'm 37, and just sort of made golf cool, if you can say that in air quotes. And I kind of saw this kid come into the scene and just change it forever, which he did. And so that was I was getting ready to do travel baseball, kind of start that whole deal, and I just dove head first.
Yeah.
I was kind of a late bloomer in terms of how it was. Ended up playing collegiately at Tennessee Tech, had a really good career there, was an All-American, and always bumping up against, ended up in places that a person from Tennessee Tech probably would not end up. The All-American tournament, NCAAs, and just like I remember going to NCAAs and they asked me if I was in the right place.
Yeah.
Like, is Tennessee Tech Division I? I'm like, yeah, it is. And just like very like surreal. And I had a coach that played on tour in the 70s and 80s, and kind of throughout every people that have aspired and achieved at a high level, you've always had the person that maybe believed in you more than you believed in yourself. And
I'm familiar.
and he, my coach, was just, he was on me from day one, as far as man, like I think that you have a potential to do some things that we've never seen someone do here. And I'm like, what in the world's he talking about?
Yeah.
And then kind of build into that and continually try to push me and bring me to where I was today. And super thankful for that time. And so I progressed from Tech to played about a year and a half of mini tours, like kind of developmental, and then a year it's now on the Corn Ferries and Nationwide. When I played, that would be like the version of AAA in golf, and then this is my 13th season on tour now.
Wow.
When you, and I guess for context, because I think it will then tie into this whole idea of like training in golf that we're going to talk about, but that progression is a grind, right? And so,
Very much so.
And it is in every sport, but I think a lot of people watch golf on TV and they're like, oh, what a life, right? And like, I've got a chance to be out on tour with you this year, and my number one takeaway is like, man, your life is hard, and and it's
so hard.
But you have to like raise money to get your ass around at the beginning of your career, and you literally eat what you kill and it's still to that point now, right? Mm-hmm. And like, you got to re-up every year for your card. It's tell people about that a little. It's really interesting. It's a tough existence.
Yeah, very much so. And thankfully, like in business school, your junior and senior year, you had an opportunity to basically go and take weeks off and go like interview for jobs. And I was kind of like that smart aleck kid is like, well, I'm gonna go play on tour. And so like everyone was supposed to come back and like write papers and give reports on where they went and interviewed, and I was just like I'm gonna play pro golf. And that's kind of what I did.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about what that meant. And so we had a sports management guy, and he's like, oh, we got an aspiring professional athlete. We are blessed. And he just put it right back on me, and he pulled me right up in front of class in front of about 50 people. And they were like, we're going to interview for here and here and here. We're going to do all these great things. And I'm like, oh, boy, I'm in trouble. So I get up there. And he's like, let's talk about your, plan to, go pro and all this. He's like, so when you graduate and you leave and you're going to go drive to your first tournament, how are you going to pay for the gas to get there? I'm like, oh boy, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
And so just to kind of like put me on notice, like I needed to get a game plan.
Yeah.
And so he helped me kind of develop it. And I think that's what helped me a lot as far as I progressed, is I had someone come alongside me and kind of understand that as much it is a sport, but there's the business behind it, and kind of just golf is the easiest, but it's also the most difficult, but it's the set standard. There's 18 holes. You got to go out there and compete and this and that, but it's like all the stuff that gets to it. And O'Keefe kind of got a chance to see that and kind of what the day-to-day looks like. And if you don't have that dialed in, you can make the stuff that happens on the course incredibly more difficult. And, kind of all this stuff tying into training and, kind of being the better version of yourself and all this and that. If you don't instill that from like the beginning and you try to adjust and add that in and you don't have any baseline, like we got some problems.
Yeah.
And I learned that firsthand.
Have you had... Are you still in contact with that teacher?
Yeah, I've gone and done a couple like presentations. Like this guy completely just put me on blast in front of like the whole business school.
Yeah,
and I'm incredibly thankful for it. But in time, I was just, you talk about like humbling moments throughout your career.
Well, I mean, humbling, mortifying. Like you have someone taking your personal inventory in front of a group of strangers.
Yeah, completely. And they're like, "Oh, how's that going?" I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
But it was cool to kind of come on the other side, because like you sit down with, kind of what he was talking about. You sit down with investors, you do this and that. And it's like, but you're investing into a human. You're not investing into like a tried and tested product or an idea or whatever. You are into a human being. I mean, you're the greatest CrossFitter ever.
And there's no guarantee.
There's like, you go trip and fall down those stairs and like you can't walk. Like, there's true. So you got to be buttoned up as far as how you're presenting the stuff to these people. And, thankfully they had a lot of faith and trust in me to go out there and try to be a good steward of that. But I wouldn't have had that awareness if it hadn't have been for like moments like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's those moments that in the moment you're like, I would give anything to take this feeling away. But
And I'm so thankful for it.
Years later, you're like, nope, that made me sit down and
Yeah.
have a very honest look at this.
Yeah, so that was 15 years, so probably 17 years ago, and still to this day, it was funny to like go back, and I've done a couple presentations with this class. Like, you're the guy that got blown up. I'm like, I am the guy. Literally, just absolutely got blown up
Yeah.
in front of everybody. So
That's awesome. Can you tell us about the first workout you did on your weight loss journey?
okay,
So we're taking a lot of steps back.
yeah, we're doing. So a little bit of training in college, not much, and it's totally different now. Like, guys would, the way that our team did, it was like we played, and then we had that like, 2-month off season. Like, that's when we started working out.
Yep.
That was it. Like, and it was like 3 days a week.
Yep.
Like, that was like golf, fitness, and whatever. And now you look at the progression, like teams train all year.
Yeah.
Which is probably more like you should.
Yeah.
And so, kind of had a little bit of understanding, tried to figure out what we were doing and everything like that. But then, tour happens, life happens, and I mean, it happened fast, man. I won 3 times in 4 years and just literally just hit the ground running, and kind of felt like as long as I made birdies, people would kind of look alongside of the fact that, man, like I was definitely like gaining weight. I was doing all the things I probably shouldn't be doing. I had no baseline of, sleep, nutrition, recovery, like literally nothing.
Yeah.
And just as long as birdies were being made, and then start going. But then, kind of that aha, probably need to be doing something. So we started progressing. Adam, one of the guys that I train with, has been with me from the very beginning. It was TRX Ys, Ts, and Ws. Like 5 and 5 and 5.
TRX certified instructor right here.
O'Keefe was a TRX instructor.
So TRX Ys, Ts, and Ws. 25 single jump rope. 25.
Okay.
And like a down and back turf run. And run is
A loosely used term.
jogging.
Yogging. Firm walk.
And then like built-in rest.
And,
Like-
you were blacked out.
Like, how many rounds of that would you do?
Not many.
Wow. And
There's
what age were you when you were doing that type of workout?
So that was like, when I first started like kind of getting into it and everything, like, and it progressed quickly, but it was more just like trying to establish a habit.
Yeah.
Of like getting into
Okay.
it. Like, not just going in there and just like blowing myself
Yeah.
up, but a little bit of like, all right, I want to be able to like continue to do this like throughout the week. Not like I'm gonna go in there, have one blow up and like lay in my bed for 3
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
So
I mean that's good to hear that day one you had that mentality, because that's what I tell any of my friends or family that are trying to go through a big life transformation. I'm like, don't change everything first day.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to be doing 2-a-days. You don't need to, restrict what you're eating day one. It's like little changes,
Yeah.
a little thing at a time.
I tell everyone's like, what's the one thing you tell me? Like that one, like tell me everything is like, make one better decision today and build off of it for tomorrow.
Yep.
And continue to go off of that, instead of like, I'm going to be the best eater, sleeper, trainer, like life person ever, and I'm going to have ultimate gratitude through the whole thing. Is like, well, you're screwed.
Yeah.
'Cause
yeah.
it's
It's
over. Just don't
hate
even
to break
start.
it to you. It's not going to last.
Yeah. And we're kind of at this part. I have a lot of people that come a little bit similar, but the fitness levels are very different for the people that come and train with you to
Yeah.
come and train. And it's like, I'm ready to go. And dude was, significantly overweight and just kind of like reminded me of kind of where I was.
Yeah.
And I said, man, like, this is what we're going to try. I said, I want you, not a burpee, but I want you to stand up, and I want you to sit down Indian style, and I want to see how many times you can do that without having to take a break.
Yeah.
And he got to like 12, and he's like, all right, I understand why we did this. Because
Oh
he's
my
like
gosh.
seeing like the assault bike over there. He's like, I'm ready to do that. I'm like, no, man, like, we're going to see where you're at. And kind of just like, and continue to build him up instead of day one. And he's trying to come in for day 2. He's like, man, I literally can't move a single limb on my
Yeah.
body.
Oh, I had a similar first workout with my dad. It was he got cleared to exercise after surgery, and like he was an athlete. Like he's incredibly athletic. Like can still walk on his hands and stuff like that at 68. I think he's 60, 67, 68 years old. But anyways, like the first workout, I was like, hey, we're just going to do like a 12-minute EMOM with like very scaled reps. I'm like, we're just getting in here, getting familiar with it, making it a daily habit. And he kept just launching on the assault bike, just like he would just crank. I'm like, Dad, make the calories last 40 seconds. Like you don't. And but it goes so much faster if I just
You were
sprint.
like trying him to hit him like 5 calories.
It
right?
was like, I think it was 5 or 6 calories in a minute. And he's just max out sprint. And round 3 or 4, whatever it was, he's like not getting back on the, come on, Dad, like the round started, like, yeah, I think I'm going to throw up, and then just projectile. I was like, oh, Dad, like you don't need to go all out day one. Like let's throttle it back, make it a habit.
More is better. More is better.
Yeah.
But I think that people, especially with all the iterations of the social media and this and that, and they see people like yourself. And I mean, I fell in that too. Like one of the first people I ever trained with, like, was Rich, and that was like mine. And I'm like, okay, like, and then he's the same way. He's like, no, man. Yeah. And then you start going around and start training more and more, especially with people that are on, y'all's level, as far as truly some of the best that have ever done it, if not the best, and kind of going around the spot of like every person came was like, all right, man, let's taper down. Let's taper down. Like you want to be able to do this for a long time, not just like one time,
not just today,
and just blow up.
Yeah.
Well, when we let's talk a little bit more about this. So you changed everything in your life through fitness, right? Like you're heavy. I mean, by the way, there's 3 former fat kids here, so we can talk loosely about this, right?
This is a therapy session.
Yeah. I go back to my those days daily. Just that's why I work out. But so you are today the best you've ever been at the game of golf, right? You're 37, and a lot of people look at that and be like, wow, like most sports, that's starting to get on the backside of the hill. You're going up. You had your best year ever in your career last year, right? And you would say it's because I've like really gone all in on many things, mental and physical. But talk about the training aspect. I think a lot of people are learning, and they have through the Tiger revolution with fitness, but the golfers look different today. Like, what is training doing for you from a golf perspective? Like, I've seen it and I know, but like, why? And then we, which will make a lot of sense to talk about why we're doing this, right? Yeah. So like, talk about training in golf. Like, what has that done for you? Because you're the best you've ever been at 37.
Yeah, I think just kind of, rolling the clock back a little bit and understanding of, I think just as a society, most people try to figure out ways to not do things that are uncomfortable instead of just embracing the fact that I'm going to find things that are difficult and, kind of create a little bit of adversity and kind of see what kind of resiliency I can build on the other side. I think that's rare to be able to have people that dive in, but as soon as you surround yourself, you're very familiar in that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do things that suck, and I'm just going to be better at just dealing with it than other people. And in terms of when you start to do uncomfortable things, especially with a job that is incredibly mentally taxing, and understand like, man, what I'm doing is difficult, but like, have you ever ridden an echo bike for an hour? Like, that's harder.
Yeah.
Like, and you just start to go into it further and further and just start to understand like, man, having like the mental aspect of like the release, kind of getting out of my own head in terms of a job that is just full in at all times, and then kind of coming out on the backside of it of like, man, I've done so many more difficult things from a physical perspective that just prepared me for these moments of just kind of fully embracing it, especially in those times. It was like, all right, man, this is tough right now. Yeah. And then just reminding of like laying on the ground, like, oh, that was harder.
Yeah. So I think that ties in well with my next question. So like for myself, like I'm not a golf player, the most
golf ball whacker guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet.
But obviously I've watched more tournaments and heard more stories through O'Keefe. And I think I was probably in the same boat as most people when we're looking at it of like, well, why does fitness or why does training matter in golf? Like you stand there, you whack a ball, and then you walk then you follow the ball. So like what moments sorry, that was a very crude way of
That was
putting it.
amazing.
No,
No,
that's
but
perfect.
where does the fitness tie into your like game day performance? Like how does that help? Are there certain specifics when you're on the course that like what are you training for? What are you trying to target?
Yeah, you're truly everything. But then just the fact of like one of the nicest compliments we ever said about us is that we're endurance athletes. We probably walk about 100 miles a week,
Yeah.
and when you think about that over the course of 30 weeks, I mean that is a lot of
Oh yeah.
miles.
I mean that was what I couldn't believe was, O'Keefe's telling me like, oh, they have to train in like crazy amount of endurance because they're walking all day. Like what would you say it was? Like you were
10,
talking
10 miles around.
Yeah, 10
Yeah.
miles around. Like you said, the one day you played like 44 holes
Yeah.
and you walked like 25 miles.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're walking a marathon and that's not even the target. That's not even what you're there for.
It's weird in the contrast, and as we start getting into more specifics as far as some of the training aspect of what we're doing, it's very odd because you can play a round of golf in 2.5 minutes, but it takes about 5 hours.
Yeah.
So like when you have those in terms of you think about like rep schemes and like programming and different things like that, you have this like short, quick burst and then sustain.
Yep.
And then you have to almost like get out of your own head and then be able to kind of focus back in and knowing like whether it's a on the minute kind of thing or something like that of where you start tying in to, all right, I got an all out effort, like swing, time and attention, everything. And then I got to go and be able to breathe it down.
Yep.
Golf is the same way, and kind of building some training stuff that kind of correlates with that. Like, I mean, we're not going to program a workout that's 5 hours, but something in the time domain in terms of like where you still have that like fast all out, and then something where you got to kind of draw it back down. Sort of the movements and things that you would pair with that is very, very similar to what we do when we're on the golf course, as far as just to recreate that in just a little bit of a different way.
Yeah.
There's so many facets to it. Like people who watch a lot of it, like you at the Ryder Cup, they put heart rate on the TV and you see the reality of, every player, even the best in the world, getting nervous when they're hitting their first shot every time, and their heart rate's at like 130, 140. Like, we work out at that, right? So there's tons of value there. When you go to the first tee, you're just less stressed.
Yeah.
And you're able to breathe through those situations better. And you go play Augusta. Augusta is an endurance test as much as it is a golf test, because it's the hill. You're ascending and descending 300 vertical feet throughout the whole day like this.
Yeah.
And then you then couple that with, anybody now has a shot to win on a Sunday at Augusta. It's an out of body experience. The stress, like you're now trying to focus for 4 hours when you shouldn't be, because you're like, I can win the Masters. My life's changed. My kids' life's changed. Their kids' life's changed. There's a lot that goes into it that I don't think is like really, on people's minds that, you train for, right?
Yeah. Like once I started learning more about it, and then it's like, oh, if you're going into the last couple holes and you're 5% more recovered than the next guy, like it's
over.
It's like that domino effect of, and then you're playing day after day after day. Like the amount of time that you spend on the road in that tournaments is mind-boggling.
He calls last year and he said, hey, what are you doing X day? This was the first time I carried his bag. And I'd always said, like, I feel not helpful. Like, how can I help? He's like, well, you can help John. John's his caddy. They're playing, like, they're on a stretch of playing 16 of 18 weeks in a row. So 16 of 18 weeks away from home. He's got young kids. Yeah. And John carrying that damn bag 10 miles a day, seven days a week. There isn't a day off, right? Like they're hitting balls all day.
And that's just the golf. That's not like the prep stuff, like
it's crazy.
All the other things. Like, I mean, there's a good chance that John would walk, especially a new place that we haven't played. Like that Southern Hills, man. I mean, there's no telling how many times he walked that place. Just
without you, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So just seeing like all that. So sorry, continue.
No, I'm just like, for me, that untold why training golf, but like that filters down. Like I'm a passionate golfer. I want to get better. There's so many things, like, I want to walk and carry my bag and feel good about it and not worn out. Like you're 10 miles with 30 pounds on your back is no joke, right?
Yeah.
So it's I mean, kind of like transition into like where we're going and why we're doing this. Like you've always wanted to be in this side of it, putting out how I train and also helping people like me and Matt that, aspiring golfers, people that golf more to get better. We're such a passionate crowd, golfers, just like CrossFitters,
Yeah,
right?
very much so.
But this is sort of like, it's exciting for me because I've heard so much about it, like the culmination of something that you've wanted to do for a long time, right? But bring that down to our level, like the everyday golfer, because all my friends that play at the club, they just they're retired or done really well, super successful guys that just want to play golf on Saturday and Sunday. Man, I know this like I've gotten better at golf because I've done fitness, right?
I think a little bit to kind of harp on what Matt was saying, like the general idea as far as like the first initial is creating the habit and like getting them in there and understand that like the cascade effect of just putting something in there that's going to help you find the better version of yourself. And then you start to see like every person that we've all trained with that has gone through a transition has had that like one like buy-in moment. And we're trying to help give them the avenue of having that.
Yeah.
And, we're going to have the guys in day one that are just hardos that are like, I'm ready to go. Like, this is something I'm looking for. But the other side too, it's like, I've done TPI, I've done, personal training, I've done this, and I haven't really found that, sort of thing. So giving them something they can continually come back to and build off of, and then be able to do some stuff to kind of quantify how it is, whether it's handicap, club head speed, whatever they're kind of looking to improve, but just incrementally improve as kind of we all talk about that we've done with ourselves, and then be able to build them and progress them into something that, a little bit more geared towards like what I do.
Yeah.
And, kind of find that happy medium. But getting them into a spot where they know, the program is going to be consistent. It's going to build one to the next and kind of have something that will help them become not a matter if and when, just a matter of what time of day, and they can build it in, and then they start seeing the difference. They start walking, they start beating their buddies, they start now becoming the longest guy in the group. And then sooner or later that cascade effect is like, all right, that guy just wore me out. What is he doing different than I'm doing? And it has nothing to do with golf. He just started taking a little bit better care of himself, started building some routine, building some habits, and the next thing you know, the effect that the trickle down from that is astronomical.
Yeah.
I know I speak for Matt, because when I talk about like our association with this, HWPO training, really to our core, we want to go everywhere and anywhere, but not with anyone, right? So like for us, it's finding what we think is world-class, best in class, and the right people that fit our brand and culture to then go and race in a space. And our goal here is to build the best training platform in the history of golf, which is yours, right?
Yeah, I think the team that you guys have surrounded yourself with, and just like our first like initial phase meetings, has been super impressive as far as you being very vulnerable in the fact that this is a space that we're not familiar with, but trusting me to kind of guide that along, but also have me kind of help understand the world that you guys live in, which is truly like elite training, and kind of how we can take and adapt that into the world that I live in. And like I want to learn from you guys, and hopefully I can bring something to the table in a world that is very new in the world of elite kind of training and different things like that. But it's been a process to kind of figure out a partnership and something that I felt was like viable for the long term. And when this all started, I got access to the sweat, and I was like, this is the first thing I have seen that I would do on the road.
Yeah, don't sleep on sweat.
And I mean, I was like, I'm gonna do what Matt does. And I saw like one of the first couple things that you guys put out. I was like, all right, this is miserable. Like, let's find something.
I'm not gonna do what Matt does.
I am over this. It's like, man, I'm like the fittest I've ever been. And I started dipping my toe in a couple of those pro days, and I'm like, no. Like, I'm like piecemealing it. Like, I'm scaling literally all of it. And I was like, so I started going into, and just from a programming methodology standpoint, that was the first thing I saw that for my lifestyle and the travel and this and that. And I was like, all right, this is something that we can do. This is something that like we take some of like my thoughts as far as some key things that people continually need to work on into a program that's sort of already built in a mentality as far as, start to finish, this is the
Yeah.
time. And you kind of meet people where they're at, which is kind of
Yeah.
one of the big things at HWPO, and kind of giving them a chance to, we're going to grow with them and continually like help them along the way. And I texted him, I was like, I don't know when we're doing this. And then we all got on the phone and kind of figured it out. It was like, all right, let's hit the ground running with
Yeah.
this. And here we are.
So that kind of ties us in nicely. Like what's your like methodology? Do you have like some rules that you put in for yourself when it comes to your training? Like how do you structure what you're doing?
Yeah, a little bit of it. We started doing it like for myself and Adam, the guy that I train with, to do 6 and 8 week blocks. And we know now over the course of time, and my schedule is built out. Like when I sent you my schedule, you're like, this is till August.
Yeah.
It's October. Like, and, just as far as, I mean, golfers are very detail oriented, and, time and like execution are very big things as far as what we have control over. So understanding what that schedule looks like when I'm at home, when I'm on the road, the gyms that we have access to, and you don't really have a time with our schedule to do like a traditional like periodization. You don't have like a strength phase. You don't have, I mean, you do, but then you're just gonna have to deal with the ramifications of it
On game day.
Yeah. So I was telling you, like we got done with the tour championship, and I had 4 weeks off, and I knew like I was gonna just load it up, and I went from like low 200s to almost 220, just from the fact of like I knew as soon as we started going back on the road, like I was gonna like net out maybe just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you just don't have time to understand like the loading and the deloading as far as just a strength phase. So for us, like to give you a long answer to a short question, is just a sliding scale of volume, weight, and time with relative understanding of when you're going to play again.
Yeah.
And being cognizant of that.
Yeah. I mean, your schedule, it's like in some ways it has to be nice because you know where you're going to be and when for basically an entire year.
Pretty much.
But that it has to be daunting looking at it of you have to get tired part way through, like a month in, and you're like, I have 9 more months before this is over.
Well, he played last year 16 of 18 weeks. And honestly, like from the friend zone, like, and I've been out there for some of it, it's like, all right, you're a shell of yourself at some point during that stretch, right? You're missing your family.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So, I mean, that pulls in nicely because it's one thing that I've harped on, and I think it's probably a lot more obvious when you see somebody doing a day of like the pro training where it's like you're hitting these huge weights, crazy metcons, big conditioning pieces. It's very obvious the recovery that needs to happen, whether it's ice baths or sleeping, nutrition, whatever it is. On like a tournament weekend, what's your recovery process look like at the end of, well, either like at the end of a training day or the end of a tournament day?
Honestly, all kind of what we have access to, everything.
Yeah.
And like I have made it a point learning from people like yourselves, like what they have made themselves accessible to, like when they're home, and having your home like to be the epitome of everything that you want it.
Yeah.
And so that that those off weeks is you can truly maximize it all.
Yeah.
Like your sleep, hydration, nutrition, recovery, all aspect. Like you've been to my house, like
It's a one-stop shop.
yeah. The sauna is maybe done. I'm unaware, but just truly building it in. So like when friends, whatever, because I have friends that are athletes across all sports. Like I want people to feel like they can come, feel welcome, and they literally don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, semifinals weekend. It's like how many games competitors rolled through and trained at your house, and you weren't even there.
Yeah,
well,
that's why
all of them.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I thought, because I mean, especially traveling and understanding, like when people ask like what you need to train, I just like space and understanding of like I'm not gonna go like I have no problem training in a CrossFit gym, but just an understanding of like, man, I'm not gonna do your class max deadlift like on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna do that. So like just give me a little bit of space. I'm gonna stay out. I'm gonna kind of do my thing and be out of the way. But the same thing, if people come to Knoxville, it's like we have tons of space and plenty of understanding too, whether this is your first day of training or you're a games athlete, like
Yeah,
here
there
you
you go.
And, kind of
So
have
true.
the opportunity to be able to do it. And, truly the idea of my home wanted to be able to meet people where they're at. And that's kind of what I did. And I had a chance to pick a lot of people's brains as far as the ways to go about it and kind of put it in there. So to answer your question, as far as like try to incorporate as many things as I can, especially when I'm home.
You've said now a couple times, meet people where they're at. Right? We talk about that every day at HWPO. Right? Like it's a huge goal of ours. Knowing like it's impractical for a lot of people to train the way the two of you do. Right? Fact in golf or in CrossFit, and we've put that out in the CrossFit space to say like, hey, you've wanted to know. I mean, we've even like in our initial offerings boiled that down because it's like you can't train the way he did. Like, it's not healthy, honestly, fact, right? But we've talked a lot about that on the golf side. We had a great meeting this week to sort of like go over how we'll approach this. And, I think people will look at what you do and it's inspirational, but it's hard to find the aspiration from it because it's intense. Like, you are, like, people don't, I think they're realizing more and more, you're damn fit for just a fitness person, right? Like, you're really, really fit and you're really strong. So I want people to be inspired and then aspire. And so we're really going to work hard to meet people where they're at. Like, this is for anybody to walk in, like overweight, no core strength, can't do a push-up, can't do a deadlift. We're going to get you. We got you, right? Like that's the real goal here.
Yeah. And I think too, like I was very fortunate. I had someone meet me where I was at, which was like nowhere, and understand that there's a vast majority of people that are just looking for that opportunity, not to be hit over the head with a sledgehammer and constantly reminded that they're unfit. I mean, that would have been very detrimental to me. But I had literally someone to kind of come alongside, drag me to the gym, get me into a spot of like, next thing you know, I started feeling better and better and better. And it was like, next thing you know, it's like, all right, how about a day off? And you start to have that, other moment. So, kind of with that in mind, as far as the initial, like what we're going to bring to them first is that spot. Like we're going to meet them where they're at. We're going to give them something that they continue to build off with scalability, understanding from a body weight to a weighted, and just kind of something they can continually build on day in, day out, and be strength phases, be some metcons, and just kind of more give them an indoctrination of how to train, what AMRAPs look like, and just kind of more of an educational piece, but with some more constructive stuff on a little bit more emphasis on some rotation, kind of how to move your body well. And then, as we continually progress, like the more technical stuff will come, but more just like, let's get them in the habit of it.
Yep.
And then kind of build off of that.
And you were there, right? Like you couldn't do a burpee, you couldn't do a push-up, right?
Yeah, there were some dark times in there throughout.
Real quick, off the top of your head, do you know of any, like, I mean, you've had more conversation than anyone about training for golf, I'm sure. What are some common misconceptions that you hear people coming up with?
I just feel I wouldn't say it's misconception, it's just excuses. And I had the same, like, I can't play sore. I'm going to get too big. I'm going to get, or I'm going to get too, like, literally any and all excuse you can possibly can. And at the end of the day, that's what they are, and then they're excuses. And just trying to figure out a reason to hate something before you even start. Like the moment that, like, and to be honest, life doesn't work like that. Like I want the sun to shine.
Yeah.
I want all green lights. I want, everything to be good. And then you wake up the day, step in a puddle, red lights the whole way. And it's like, this is like, man, we got to deal with life head on. In the same way, this is the program that'll, kind of help it on. We're going to deal with it. We're going to be uncomfortable, and we're going to continually progress and understand that we're going to come back to the well every single day and give them something that they can build off of, and try to eliminate as many of those obstacles or excuses or roadblocks that people have just set in their way, and just kind of help them be strong enough to push them out of the way.
We can just drop the mic right now. I mean, like that, but, and you know this, you know us well. Like, our ethos is that it's show up, work hard, make yourself proud. That's like, we want people to simply approach everything that they do. So do you. I watch you do it, and I watch you talk to people. I watch you inspire people in the golf world, right? But that is it. It's like, just get your ass off the couch and move and take the next step.
As we're on the couch.
Now on the other end, just making a daily habit. Make it a habit just to go to the gym, and then like you'll start to progress and add in more and more as
Yep.
time. On the other end of it, of all right, now you're going to the gym every day and all of that. How do you avoid burnout? And I specifically want your answer on this, because I don't know if I've ever met anyone that travels more. Like, I thought I traveled a lot.
Yeah.
And you are on another level with it. And so, like, when it comes to training, competing, traveling, what do you do to avoid burnout?
I try to put myself in spots where I have to be as creative as I possibly can, and almost like more is in everything is not always better, but like just the pure transition of, like, we just played in Japan, and 13-hour time difference, huge travel, this and that, and I have a week. So I've got to adjust and I've got to be prepared. So I utilize training in the adaptation phase as far as how to do it. Like, don't go to bed, like get up, get moving, run a little bit. But it was like I was challenging myself, because you got to find that happy balance, because especially when you deal with that much time fatigue, like, just because you can doesn't mean you should, and you can just drive yourself into a hole when you think you're trying to dig yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And you think you're digging out, and you're just digging yourself further and further, as far as the detriment you have no chance to recover off of. But so building like shorter time domains where you can have a little bit more emphasis of like heart rate and kind of moving around, and that was a cool experiment to be able to do, and kind of like, all right, what can I do in 20 minutes? And like, how can I, utilize my whole body, not super taxing, but I get done, I'm like, all right, I feel good, and continually build off of that. So the programming aspect helps. It kind of gets me out of my own head, and I kind of know in that spot, like Matt was talking about, when I kind of feel like that wall is going to happen, and then like a recycle. Like, then you go like body weight, get outside, run, you're out of the gym,
Yeah.
and you just kind of have the weeks. It's like, man, I'm literally not going to see a gym floor, but I'm going to go run. I'm going to do all my workouts outside, or I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to avoid that. I'm going to do and just kind of constantly evolve that, instead of like, all right, I'm in a gym, that's what I'm going to do.
I'm going to do my strength work. Then I'm going to do my Metcon. Then I'm going to do my accessory.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, because the nice thing that I feel about training is I can give you the same movements for 7 days in a row, and you can program 7 different workouts and have completely different results.
Yeah.
And that's how this style of training became very like exciting for me, because golf is time and repetition and understanding, which training is too, but for golf it's kind of understanding those little idiosyncrasies, the stuff that's going to make up that 1%.
Yeah.
Or the different thing. Just a quick thing with numbers, I got 2 years ago, I finished 100th on the FedEx Cup. That's kind of the terminology. And I got a number that was given to me, and a guy said 58 is your number. It's like, I don't know what that means. He said, basically, you had a 58 shot variance amongst from finishing in the Tour Championship and losing your job. And I'd hit like 2,500 shots. 58's not a lot when you start thinking about that. So understanding those tiny, like little things that make a huge difference. Training is a huge part, and then kind of understanding like how to attribute that into like how you practice and prepare, and kind of having that happy balance between what happens in the gym and what happens on the grass.
Razor thin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first, what is the HWPO golf program? I know we've already touched on this, but just kind of broad overview.
Yeah, we're going to meet people where they're at. We're going to give them something they can work hard and something they can be proud of. I mean, that's kind of the emphasis of kind of what you guys have instilled in every program that you put out. And you found some great people to help bring that too. So I appreciate and feel honored that somehow I ended up on this couch. But to try to build a baseline and give them an understanding of training, and truly understand that when we put something out there, that the time and thought went into like understanding the fitness level and where these people are coming from. We're going to try to serve the masses, but understand that as time continues to go on, and as we learn and evolve with the programming and the demographic that continues to kind of push towards what we're putting out, there's going to be something for everyone. From a competitor track, a little bit more geared towards what I do, a little bit more college, junior development, to the club golfer, the guy that's continually try to push, maybe later in life, there's going to be, ebbs and flows through the whole thing. It's not going to be some big, 12 different things to opportunity. There's going to be scalability and understanding through all of it. And something that, I think will serve a vast population of golfers, including myself.
Well, and by the way, the attractive piece, because this is like this crowd that has a lot going on. And by the way, we know as golfers that the goal is to be better at golf, right? So we also know fitness is supplemental here, right? We're going to build things that are, 30-minute clocks, 45-minute clocks. Like you set the clock and it just runs you through it. Like, let's just talk a little bit about that. We do it with sweat, right? So this is going to be like set it and forget it. And like you're like got everything in front of you so easy, right?
Very much so, along the lines of as more like we've all had that education and training. When you saw a workout, when you very first started training, you look at it and be like, I don't understand a word of this. And then the more and more that you continue to do it, the more you kind of build and start understanding the progressions as far as the stuff that we're going to follow. And from the scalability standpoint, it kind of, you're going to meet yourself where you're at too. And you got to look yourself in the mirror and be like, man, do I have this or not? And it's not going to be some like overly daunting, like challenging thing, but a little bit of it too. Like you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And I think, there'll be a lot of encouraging, a lot of coaching back and forth and some cues as far as different things to go about. And I think that, as, we continue to progress the program, people will see as, we adhere and adjust, throughout the, as it gets a little bit broader but people can kind of find that little spot of where they feel the most comfortable and what, kind of geared more towards them.
Yeah, every day as a golfer coming to fitness, again, some of it being foreign, you'll have a video that will tell you what the day's about, and you'll have coaching videos that will help you translate why this is there for golf. And then there's a movement library too. So if you look at something and it says,
10 burpees, and you're like, what the heck is a burpee?
Right.
Click on the video, and there's a demo.
It's either Matt or Scott doing a burpee or a landmine. I didn't know what a landmine was really until I met Scott, right? And it shows you exactly how to do it, and then we'll have the coaching side of it. So very, like, even what we do now is like, it's easy. You just start the clock, and everything's there for you, right?
Yeah, very much so.
And then, this is what the whole conversation's been half about, but how does somebody get better at golf without actually playing golf? Like, how does time spent in the gym contribute to somebody's, whether they're playing on the weekend with buddies or they're like in a tournament?
Yeah.
It's a great question.
That I get asked this all the time. It's like, why should I train? It's like, well, why should you not train?
Yeah.
Like, which is better? Like, training is better.
Yeah.
Like, being more like physically fit is going to make you like a better version of everything, and it's going to have the trickle down to golf. It's going to have the trickle down to everything, and just the fact of like, by taking better care of yourself and being a good steward of this, because this is all we get, one of these. This is it.
Yeah.
and, like, we want to think that we can go buy and trade parts and this and that,
Yeah.
but truly, like, the new accessory pieces are not good as the original. We all know that. You start thinking of a car.
Yeah.
I wish that was the case, but that's a fact. And I think that, by seeing that and understanding, like, a more fit person is going to be more resilient, more adherent to face adversity, and whether it affects them on the golf course or affects them in life, it's only going to make them better. And the golf is just going to kind of follow along, and we're going to build them something that's going to help them in all aspects.
I like that you touched on, you're more willing to face adversity. Like, I was immediately going to the physical side of like, well, if your endurance is better, you're not going to be as wiped out from walking 10 miles. You're going to recover a little bit better. You're going to, probably your hole number 1 and hole 16 are going to look more similar.
Yeah.
If you have better endurance. But I like the fact that you immediately jump to like the mental side of things of, well, no, if you're willing to do hard shit in the gym, when you come out here, you're probably more likely to do hard shit again, like.
Isn't that like, and you guys know this because you work your ass off and have for your craft and do now for life. I do for life, be better as a job, at my job, better as a dad. But being in a fitness culture, there's less separation, but a non-fitness culture, you look at people that don't work out and you know you're better than them. And it's not like, I mean, where you're...
I'm better than you. No.
Yeah, you know what I mean by that, though? It's just like, you're more prepared. You're really achieving your better you for everybody around you. You talk about it all the time. You want to be better for Jen, Finn, and Millie, you know, your 3 favorite things in the world, you know, your family, and then like John, your caddy, like you care about everything around you. Like, you know that this is the requirement for that. But it's the same for me. It's like, I have so many people relying on me for work and then for life. Like, I just know if I get my ass out of bed and I work hard in the morning, it sets my mind and body right. Like, there's so much more to this than just like, hey, being able to hit a shot better, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the trickle down effect from just general just better life and fitness. Well, like, we're gonna get you better prepared to play. We're also gonna get you better prepared to just deal with life in general.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I know, like, I remember always saying, like, you know, a happy competitor is a dangerous competitor. And it's like, if I'm healthier, my body feels better on the day-to-day basis. Well, I'm going to be walking around with a little bit more smile and a little bit more pep in my step. And then I'm willing to dig a little bit deeper when I'm competing. But yeah, I think, you know, it's a very obvious for people just to only look at the physical side. You're training something physical, you assume the results are only physical. And it's like,
when Matt competed, like, you know, we were always looking for half and quarters and 1%, right? Like, just what it was like, you know, a lot of it, and he knows this because he's coaching now, is when he stepped on the starting mat at the CrossFit Games for the first workout, the real thing in mind was like looking to the left and right and being like, you're fucked. Like, I've done more, I've prepared more, my mind's right. Like, I have physically and mentally done more than anyone else here, right? You can take that back to anything, you know, golf particularly as a competitor about life. It's like, you want to, confidence is, I mean, I've lacked it in my life. We all have, right? Confidence is everything. This stuff helps build that, right?
Yeah, very much so. You know, the guy that, you know, the very first day, and we get him to a spot of, you know, he can't finish half the workout. And then by the end of the first month, like, he's just like, you know, flying through them and understanding the scalability. That person is going to be more confident. And it's going to affect everything. It's going to affect business. It's going to affect life. It's going to affect relationships. And I mean, their golf is only going to continue to improve because everything else is going to improve as well.
Yeah. All right. So just to wrap this up, I'm sure you've been asked these a million times. What are 3 life hacks? Inside the gym, outside the gym?
Oh man, that's a good one. Life hacks, bedtime routine. That's kind of a general answer, but having a general idea of like bedtime.
So 37 years old, still rocking a bedtime?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
I like it. I always felt ridiculous telling people that I'm a 30-year-old man, but I have a very strict bedtime and wake up time.
Yeah.
Sleep is a weapon.
Yeah, sleep is definitely a weapon for someone especially that travels like me. Intermingling fasting like throughout travel. Very much for a person that travels 300 days a year, like kind of adapting to time zones quicker.
Huh. Okay.
300 days a year.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
So like if you're doing like a huge time change and you're getting in,
like I flew to Japan and didn't eat till I got there.
Okay.
I just drank water the entire time.
Huh. I never thought about that.
Because your digestive tract and everything is the fastest way to get your circadian rhythm in check with the time that you're in.
How we have never heard that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm kind of.
We're all
okay.
Like, we'll try this to Dubai.
Yeah. Okay, that's incredible to know.
But you have to move.
Yep.
And you have to eat, and then you have to like kind of buckle up.
Yep.
And then you
like when you get to where you're going,
yeah,
it's like, hey, doesn't matter that it's 3 a.m. your time.
Very much so.
Breakfast and hit the gym.
We'll have to get through the hangry phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then work out.
Yeah, very much so. Where you kind of deal with it. But like as soon as I hit the ground, like I had some food in my bag.
Yep.
Go through customs, waiting for my bag. I'm already eating.
Okay.
And then like the transition, like get to the hotel, throw my bags in there, and like don't sit down.
Yes.
Like
that is one.
Gym clothes in the bag. Like
do not put your suitcase on the bed.
I'm not gonna get like this.
Yeah. Do not put your suitcase on the bed and then lay on the couch.
Yeah.
To scroll. To answer a couple times. It's like, as soon as you lay down after a travel day like that, you're done.
It is over.
Yeah.
5 hour nap.
So that would be 2/3.
Yeah.
And then understanding like caffeine intake this could be an intervention for O'Keefe, but like
Nah,
understanding
we won't bother with that.
understanding how like caffeine can play a role.
Yeah.
And like just being cognizant of that as far as how it just has an effect on the front and the back end.
Do you have a cutoff time during the day?
It depends on if I'm playing or not.
Yeah.
And it depends on, honestly, I'll kind of reverse engineer and knowing when I'm waking up. Can I get away with like sleeping a little bit later, or am I waking up earlier? Like if I've got one of those early days, noon for sure, guaranteed.
Yep.
I have a cutoff when my eyes are closed.
Yes, very much so. But just kind
So
of the effect on
noon cutoff
for an earlier wake up day. It's kind of hard pressed. Sometimes if I'm working out later, I don't really do some like BCAAs and stuff like that, but no like pre-workout or anything like that.
6 a.m. Like they could tee off at like 6 a.m. and like they're up at like
3.
some ungodly hour because you just got to get your shit together. Like
Yeah,
you can't be on the first tee wondering what's going on.
One of Coop's first tournaments, we were up at like 3:40, and he's like, "What is happening?" Like this is not what I'm used to.
You need to make it feel like noon fast.
Yeah.
I got to be up and moving very quickly.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, the other one, you had other questions?
What's your biggest accomplishment?
Being a dad, very much so. Cool. Been married for 15 years. I have 2 kids, Finn and Millie. He's 9 and Millie's 6. Y'all have seen.
Yeah.
That's definitely something I'm most proud of. And the moment, very much like fitness and in golf, the moment that you feel like you have it figured out is the moment they wake up and like, who is this person?
Yeah.
So just the constant evolution of being a parent and understanding kids and marriage and, kind of that whole dynamic and, kind of what that looks like. So
Tour kids. They grew up on the road.
Yeah, tour kids.
Yeah.
They had diamond airline status as
Yeah.
babies in buckets.
Yeah, I remember we went to Vegas and we were checking in Delta, and like the priority line or whatever. Like you don't have a third ID for this Finn. And they're like, oh, he's right over here.
Yeah.
He's like 4 years old.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, he's flown a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. What take that to the course in your profession? So like, what's your most prized accomplishment in golf?
Probably the tour championship at my age, like knowing that there was 30 guys in it and I was the second oldest guy there, like the understanding of like, man, I am the best version of myself, like on and off the golf course. And the fact that like age is one thing, but like it's not everything. And kind of how to make up the difference. And I mean, the training aspect has probably been a big part of being able to sustain and continually to improve as I get older.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So this last season he finished in the top 30. You get invited to a tournament that's for $50 million in 1 week. And there's not a lot of 30-year-olds in that field.
Yeah.
Everybody is, 19 to 25 because there's a lot less fear. And guy at 37 being there is pretty damn impressive.
Thankfully, Adam Scott was there too, and he's in his 40s. And we got paired together, and I'm like, we were joking that they should have brought the walkers out.
Yeah.
So we could just like make it down the fairway. So, but yeah.
Then last one. Do you have a favorite course or a favorite tournament?
Look at you with the golf questions.
Man.
I think Memorial is my favorite event. Had a chance to meet Jack Nicklaus my rookie year. Kind of unprompted, kind of a chance meeting, and he was digging out a greenside bunker completely covered in dirt, and literally one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player of all time. And I love the fact that his name and like appreciation and like blood, sweat, and tears goes into the event. And that was my first time ever meeting him. And he was one of the dirtiest people I've ever met in my entire life because he was frustrated they were working on this greenside bunker and he didn't like it. So he got in there and did it himself. And I'm like, that's my guy, because that's exactly what I'd have done.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's a cool story too. Of just like, you want something done right? Do it yourself.
Yes.
Let's go.
He's the best to ever do it. I mean, he's won 18 majors. Tiger's got 15. That's pretty badass. That's a great story. What about tournament? So Memorial's tournament course. What's your favorite course?
On tour?
You know what? Well, on and off. Go both.
my favorite course is a place called Diamond Creek in North Carolina. I'm a member, kind of like up in the mountains, super peaceful. And, a place is kind of like, when you're growing up, it's like, all right, I've kind of done something in my life if I can like do and be a part of this club. And then, they were kind of helping me, and very supportive like early in my career. And now like I've come on the other side of it. It's like, chance to go and like take friends and kind of always like a little bit of a getaway for us, and just a super cool place in the mountains.
Breaking hearts all over the world with your choice. Yeah.
So, but definitely I've been very fortunate to play some unbelievable courses and have incredible experiences, but that's probably my favorite place and experience, and just, kind of the changes and evolution of my career, just seeing like the different version of myself that have been there and had a chance to kind of learn and adapt. Like that's something I always go back to.
And the best on tour is going to be the next place you win.
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah, very much so. So we don't play many bad places, so we're very fortunate in that.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for joining us once again. We got Matt O'Keefe, Scott Stallings. I'm Matt Fraser, HWPO Training. Keep your eyes out for HWPO Golf coming soon.